Hello viewers, welcome to my blog. In today's video, we're going to explore about the exposure triangle or the three pillars of photography of a camera. This is Steven Martinez, your instructor for your next discovery. Basic introduction of DSLR. A digital single lens reflex camera or DSLR is a type of camera that delivers high-end image quality and is widely used by amateurs and professionals alike. A DSLR camera allows you to see the exact image you're shooting directly through the viewfinder, allowing you to visualize and capture your scenes better. I'm introducing you the exposure triangle. In photography, the exposure triangle explains the relationship between aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Whether you're shooting old school film or with a mirrorless, these three factors are at the center of every exposure. What is aperture? Like the iris of your eye, the aperture blades on the lens of a camera control how much light is let into the camera lens. The amount of light that reaches your camera's image sensor will determine what the exposure looks like. Each aperture setting on the lens is referred to as an f-stop, a fraction that indicates the diameter of the lens opening. Decreasing the amount range of f-stops means more light that would pass, while increasing the amount range of f-stops means less light that would enter through the lens of a camera. The smaller the f-stops means the larger aperture, while the larger f-stops means the smaller aperture. Aperture also determines the depth of field and sharpness. For example, a large f-number such as f16 will bring all foreground and background objects into focus, while a small f-number such as f1.4 will isolate either the foreground or a background and make everything else blurry. Now let's go ahead to the shutter speed. While aperture determines how wide the lens opening is, shutter speed determines how long the lens stays open for, letting the specific amount of volume of light into the sensor determined by the aperture. A faster shutter speed like 1/1000th of a second has the effect of freezing motion, while a slower shutter speed like 1/60th of a second will blur motion in the scene. Longer shutter speeds like 30 seconds can be achieved using a function known as bulb mode, where the shutter speed is determined by the length of time while the shutter button is activated. These are the effects when using the shutter speed. Fast shutter speeds like 1/1000th of a second, it freezes actions, like taking pictures in wildlife, sports, or water droplets. It captures in a sharp images from the fastest subjects. In everyday photography, it applied mid-range shutter speeds like 1/100th of a second are fast enough to keep subjects from blurring. Longer shutter speeds like 20 to 30 seconds that placed on a steady tripod can create stunning photos. Long shutter speeds is perfect when taking pictures at night sky, flowing water, or any light probes from the streets, creating a time warp effect. The ISO. ISO is the international standard of measurement that determines how sensitive a photographic film emulsion or digital sensor is to light. When increasing the ISO, it allows you to work with less light. However, if the ISO is increased oftentimes, there will be more noise and less detail within your photo or video. When shooting on your device, it is best to keep your ISO low in order to avoid noise. However, your determined ISO level is ultimately dependent upon the surrounding environment and lighting conditions. For instance, if you are shooting in a low light setting or indoors, you will need a higher ISO to properly expose the photo and brighten up the film. On the other hand, when you are in a very bright setting or outdoors and trying to capture footage, a lower ISO would be appropriate in order to avoid noise getting into your photo or video. What camera mode should be using? Manual mode is highly recommended because it adjusts the way you like to control the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO when taking pictures or images. It might be challenging, but sooner you will discover their functions and how to balance them properly. Some people are using auto mode. There is nothing wrong using auto mode when taking pictures, but sometimes auto mode gives a default and automatic adjustments of your exposures. There is also a program mode, aperture mode, and shutter speed mode where it controls a specific exposure in the camera. So I highly recommend to learn how to shoot in all camera modes. But before we end this video, please visit, follow, and like to my personal Facebook page, Litrato Tiborcio. I'm also a freelance photographer in my own local town. Message me if you need a photography service for your any kind of event or celebrations. As we end this video, putting it all together to produce a photograph or video, you must use the exposure triangle in order to balance aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. And as a result, control how long and how much light enters the camera sensor. This might help your photography skills into a whole new level. But to make a work of art, as it were, you'll need a fine-tuned combination of technical expertise and an untethered imagination. Please like and subscribe to my channel for more media discoveries. See you next time.